Welcome back to this channel. I'm Melanie and today we're gonna dive on into the 12 books I've read in the month of March. I know this video is long overdue. We are in the mid-April, toward the end of April, and I still have yet to make that video, but yeah, I'm here and this is gonna happen. It's gonna be a lengthy one, so if you want to make yourself a hot beverage or something to drink, that's a good idea now. Let's dive in with my favorite bit. It's the statistic. So like I said, I've read 12 books, which for a total amount of 4,383 pages, and in terms of ratings, it was quite good, like a good amount of 5 stars, like a good quarter of 5 stars, a bunch of 4 stars, and yeah. In terms of genre, a lot of fantasy, too high fantasy, too low fantasy, but also contemporary and romance. And I'm kind of wondering, I put The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue into romance because I didn't want to put it in historical fiction. So yeah, that's why there is so much romance. It's kind of weird. And then yeah, that's kind of everything for the stats. Let's dive into the books. So as per usual, it's gonna be from my least favorite to my favorites, and my first one is Milarepa by Eric-Emmanuel Schmitt. So like I've said, if you're new to this channel, Eric-Emmanuel Schmitt is a French author. He has this series going on of very short books on different philosophy or religion, and there's like 5 or 6 who are out now, and they're usually full of little gem and very philosophical and very interesting to read. This one is the first one he wrote, I think back in like 2000 something, so like maybe 15 years ago, and it's on Buddhism, and it let me down super hard. It's very short, it's like 80 pages, 62 pages. It's based on a story from Buddhism. I think it originated in Nepal, and it's about a young guy and his uncle. The young guy is fighting for his rights to his father's estate, kind of. And yeah, it was weird. It was like a French man having the whole guy life coming back to him in his head, and he was like, am I going crazy, or what is going on? Is it my past life talking to me? And I think it lacks, compared to the other one, who are closer to like 120 pages, maybe 150 pages, it lacks a lot of time. Like, this is way too short for what it tried to accomplish. I thought it would, if it was a bit more fleshed out, then it would be way better. And it lacks the gem that I usually find in those books, like the sentences that I'm gonna write down, and like I'm gonna come back to that book and reopen it just to reread some passages because they really struck me. But this had none. Like, I had nothing to think back on. So that was a complete letdown. Then I had 2 reads that I was really looking forward to, and that didn't end up being as great as I thought it was going to be. First, it was Vicious by V. Schwab, and this was my first V. Schwab, and I had a problem with the pace. I liked the fact that the chapters were super short, but you were always going between 2 characters, 2 point of view of different characters at different timelines, and it switched way too often for my own taste. And I thought the characters were really kind of predictable, and the climax of this book was, for me, really anticlimactic in the end, and I kind of predicted what was going to happen and how it was done. And yeah, it felt a bit too easy for me, so I want to try another V. Schwab because I've heard she's a great writer, and I want to try more of her books, but this one was not for me, and I'm not going to continue. I know it's a duology and there's another book, but I'm not going to continue to the other ones because I kind of already feel like I can tell what's going to happen. It's not going to surprise me, so sorry. And the other one, I'm so sad. I give it 3 stars, but I feel like this was in my 5 stars prediction, and I feel like, oh my god, could have been so much better. It's The King of Prose by Libba Bray. I it's the end of the Diviner series. I love the Diviner series. I love every single characters in that series. It was so well done. And I just felt like this book was rambling for no reason. I could not understand what was going on, was going on. So the characters basically, it's a magical realism or low fantasy book, YA book that is set in New York in the 1920s, and there is all this big cast of young characters who have magical powers, and they're starting to use it and to combat a big bad evil. In the 3 other books before, it had its own story to wrap up, plus the big evil plot going on. So it was kind of like a mystery. So you were trying to understand how the plot of this book was going into the big plot, the big main plot, and you felt satisfied because at the end of the book the plot was done, but you still have the main plot going on behind it. And I think in the 3rd book it was less of the plot of the book, it was more of the main plot. In the 4th book there was no other plot than the main plot, and I felt like Libba Bray wanted to take us certain places, and it made no sense, but she was like, just go with me because I want to take you there. And I didn't felt okay with that. When I was reading it, I was super happy to be back with the characters, to be back in the story, so I didn't really realize that what's going on. It's when it ended, and I felt really let down by the end, because it felt like a very easy ending. It could have been more poignant if, some stuff were done that I do not like, and I don't want to spoil anything, but that's all I'm gonna say. I was very let down by this last book. I'd still give it a 3 stars because I love the characters. The underlying issue that she was trying to promote and make people understand was a great point and was very well done. Her writing style is beautiful, but it was not a 4-star, it was not a 5-star, it was just, that's an okay book. 3 stars. And then we have L'École des Femmes by Molière. It's a French play. It's super quick. It's the School of Wives, I think in English. It was our French buddy read of the month. And it's a older, like 40-old guy who groomed his adopted daughter into being the perfect wife for him. And she falls in love while he's away. She falls in love with a young man, and she wants to marry him, and he doesn't want that. And so there is a big misunderstanding where he thinks she's gonna marry him, and she wants to marry the other boy, and it's very comedic. I think seeing it on stage is even more hilarious than just reading it, but it was a fine read. For the time, I thought it did some very modern thing. It was an enjoyable read. And let's get into my 4 stars. First, The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie. It's a Miss Marple stories. I quite have enjoyed it. Let me think, because it was quite a long time ago now. Basically, we wake up in a mansion somewhere in England, as always, and there is a girl that nobody knows who is dead in the library. And the thing starts from there. So you follow the detective from the local main police and Miss Marple at the same time, and they unravel clues and everything to find who is the killer. And it was a good one. I was surprised by it. I don't think I really liked the Miss Marple character. I still have I made myself my own list of what book by Agatha Christie I want to read, and I still have 5 books of Miss Marple to read, so we'll see if I end up enjoying her character, but for now it's not my fave. Then, very surprising, Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. It's a classic, of course. It's one of, I think, the less well-known classic from Jane Austen. Basically, it's a young girl from, I think her dad is a minister or something like this, and she's invited by some friends of the family to go to that big estate for summer holiday, and she meets a guy and she makes some friends, and there is some outrageous characters in there that just filled me up with rage when I was reading it. It was even funny at one point. I was so enraged by those characters and I got so attached so quickly. I didn't really understood, but I like this. It was in this book, so it's third point of view from that girl. Her name is Catherine. Yeah, I think she's her. It's her. We follow Catherine, but sometimes we get out of this perspective and the author is talking to us first person and making fun of this genre and of her own work. And I think this is the first Jane Austen, but it was actually published post-mortem after she died. So it's quite funny to see the thought of the author while reading this. It's it's a very fun, very sarcastic read, and I want to reread that once I've read more classic. I think I will enjoy it even more. Next, The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzi Lee. So this is set in the 1450s, I would say, something like this. In England, there's this teenager, Henri Montague, or Monty, that is about to inherit his dad's estate, but he's quite wild and not well groomed and always making fun of everyone, always drinking and having sex with a lot of girls and stuff. And so his dad sent him on a 1-year journey, like kind of prepare him to like see more of the world or of Europe before being the lord and ruling over the estate. And he goes with his sister and his best friend Percy, and nothing goes as planned. It's a very, very fast-paced book, YA, but super enjoyable, very funny. It made me smile. It was just very warm hug, and it treated a lot of subject, homophobia, racism, feminism in this era, and I think it's not really as historically accurate, but I really enjoyed that. That's why I put it more into romance than historical fiction. And we get to see a lot of Europe. We spend some time on the ship, and they go to Marseille, my hometown, and it was so nice to see them in my own city and describing stuff that I see every single day. So that was very fun to see that in the book, even though I think there was some geographical inaccuracy in there when they were talking about Marseille. I would need to get more in depth to make sure there were actually inaccuracies, but you know, I let it slip. It was such a great book. And I also read the small short stories that go in between this book and the book after, which is The Lady's Guide to Parisian Petticoats. And so the in-between book that I've read, it's the guide to getting laid or something like this. I can't really remember. I put it on the screen, but it's basically Henry is actually gay and he's in love with one of the characters in the book, and it's just their own little short stories after everything that happened, just to see them getting together. And my last 4 stars, it's more of a 4.5 stars. I really like this. It's The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is the second book in the Witcher series. It's called Sword of Destiny, and I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. I've actually read the first one, The Last Wish, more than a year ago, and I didn't feel any drive to pick up the next one, but I kind of enjoyed the story, so I wanted to read this. And both The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny are short stories compilation. So we follow Geralt, who is a witcher. This means he is a human that has been enhanced to fight against different creatures that are not part of the bioclimate of where they live anymore. So it's always a call, like, is this a beast or not? Do I have to slay it or not? Like, dragon, it's alright. Mermaid, they're alright. But Striga, it's not alright. Basically, creature who kills human for no reason, he slay them. He can see in the dark, like he is faster than basic human, and he's kind of like not taking part into the human world, but he is still trying to save everybody, but everyone looks down on him. It's quite complicated. He's a brooding character who do not talk a lot, but it's super fun to follow him. And alongside him, we follow his love interest, Yennefer, a sorceress, and she's great. I'm kind of mixing up the Netflix show and the book now because I've been watching it and reading it at the same time, and I super enjoy it. But it's quite fun to read. My favorite character in this is Dandelion, or Jaskier, is the bard that tags along with Geralt from time to time. It's super funny to see the interaction of this very light-hearted, funny bard who always makes a song of everything, and Geralt, who is always brooding and saying just one word at a time. And yeah, it's super nice to see the setup for the series that start with the third book, which is Blood of Elves. So yeah, recommend Witcher series if you haven't read it. Good one. And now we get to the good part of this videos with all the 5 stars of last month, starting with every single month I like to read a non-fiction at the beginning of the month, just like a palette cleanser for the rest of the very like high fantasy and stuff like this. And this month I read No One Is Too Small by Greta Thunberg. It's a compilation of the different speech that she made at the UN or different places in 2019, 18 and 19. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't know much about her. I've heard a lot about her, but I didn't know much about herself. I knew a lot about her message, and I really enjoyed what she said. And even though I am myself working in the field of ecology and renewable energy and trying to be the best version of myself in terms of zero waste and stuff like, and less impact on the earth, reading her really ignited my flame for fighting for this cause and fighting for humanity. And yeah, I really recommend it. It can be a little bit hard sometimes to listen to it. It can feel like a slap in the face because you always feel like you're not doing enough. But it's good sometimes when you have a moment where you feel like you lose all hope, to read this and see young people that are full of love and full of energy for this cause. And next is a book that was on my TBR for quite a long time, but I didn't really knew the reason it was there. I know I wanted to read it, but I didn't know really why. And it's The Haiti Gift by Angie Thomas. And now I know why. I saw that book on a lot of different channels from a lot of different people and different tastes. But all the people that read that gave it 4 or 5 stars. And now I know, completely forgot the name of the main character, but basically we follow a young teenager in the US. She's black and she has grew up in a black community for all of her life, and basically one night she goes to a party. She doesn't really like going there, but whatever, and she rekindles her friendship with her best friend from childhood that she hasn't seen in quite a few years, and they just leave the party together and they get arrested by a cop, and the cop basically end up killing her best friend. And it's just the whole story unraveling around this, like what is someone gonna listen to the version of what she's gonna tell? Is people are gonna believe what she has to tell? Are all the cops bad people? Are all the drug trafficking black guy bad people? And should she just shut up because she is risking her life if people come after her for speaking up or not speaking up? And it's really struck me hard, but it was such an important message and so well done. It was so I was super attached to the characters, the main character, but also her parents. We get to see her parents and their own thoughts as the community take part of into this conversation. She actually goes to a white people's school, and we see her reasoning, and like she becomes 2 different persons when she's there and when she is at home. And it was so beautiful to see the story and to be in the shoes of a young black woman in the US. And that really blew my mind. It was so gut-wrenching by moment. I cried 2 or 3 times reading this, but it was so beautiful, and I really enjoyed the where this book took us and what it did, and I'm a fan. I've been pushing this book on different family members and friends because I think everyone will enjoy this book and find something they love in this book. And we have arrived to the end of this wrap up, and I think you are getting used to this by now because every single month I show you the same books, but this is my favorite read of the month. It's Words of Radiance by Greta and Sanderson. It's the second book in the Stormlight Archive series. We follow the same characters as in the first one. This is high fantasy. We are in a completely different world called Roshar, where there is a whole different fauna and flora and climate, and I love this because it gets you really somewhere else, like super quickly, and Brandon Sanderson writing styles really grab you and like take you with him alongside this story. We follow different characters. Some are quite young, like it's a coming of age stories. Some are like in their 50s, 60s, questioning everything they did in their life, and some are from very high class in society, like even royals, and some are like the dirt of the dirt, deep in the low side of society. And there is some magic in this. We are just grasping whatever the magic system is, and it's the second book, and both books are like 1,000 pages long. So yeah, I am completely wrapped up in this. I am making theories and watching different YouTube videos, different YouTubers who are talking about this, and this is just amazing. I am enjoying myself so much, and you should know by now I am a big fan of Brandon Sanderson, and I am enjoying this so much. For anyone who is afraid of the length of those books, you can, like me, pick up the English edition, which are just cut in 2, so it will feel a bit easier just to have like 500 pages and then 600 pages. Or maybe you could take like 2 or 3 months to read each of them. Don't really put any pressure on yourself, but this story is so good, and I promise it's worth it. And if you already love Brandon Sanderson, you should pick this up. Like, I've waited almost a year after my first Sanderson to pick up the series because I was so afraid of the length of this, but this is awesome. And that's it. We've been through the 12 books I've read this month. I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me if you've read any of those, or if you want to read any of those, like if you were intrigued by my thoughts, or yeah, I would love to chat with you more about any of those, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye!